Uncharted territory refers to an area or a situation that's unfamiliar or not yet explored. It often applies a lack of established guidelines or maps to navigate through it. And today, there are not a lot of areas that have no maps, but there are situations that are unexpected and even unimagined that will stimulate the imagination and growth in our lives. Metaphorically, it can also refer to any situation in life where there's no precedent or previous experience to rely on for guidance. So today, Greg and I together, we have an interesting discussion about taking some risks and exploring some uncharted territory in our own lives for travel and personally. So stay tuned. This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media with resources and ideas for you at mid-career or halftime of life. Check out our online courses where we want you to not only start, but finish. Books available in all versions and songs available for immediate download with sheet music and instrumental accompaniment tracks. Our musicals are family-friendly with great music that's memorable and inspiring. Sign up at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter for weekly updates. Now to our episode. Well, hello, here we are together. It's fun to have you here with me today, Greg. Yep.
Hi, everybody.
Talking about uncharted territory. And I was just interested in this subject because we are embarking on some travel this summer. And as this comes out, this is coming before much of the travel time. And usually people travel during this time, especially if you have kids in school. And so these are the travel months that you have. But talking about uncharted territory was interesting because we're talking about, taking some risks. And so let's talk about that, what that term means to you.
Well, it means places that somebody hasn't gone and experienced yet or charted out. And, most things on our planet have now been charted.
Right.
But there's lots of things that you and I haven't charted.
Right.
So when we think of traveling and uncharted territory, we're thinking about going beyond our normal boundaries and into somewhere that we've never experienced.
Yeah, I love that. Beyond the normal boundaries is nice, and we can see, some of the historical examples of this with Columbus and with some of the others that have gone. Space explorations. That's uncharted territory. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, we were talking, when we think about uncharted, at least a couple of examples popped in our mind. Mm-hmm. One would be Columbus, and the other one would have been Buzz Aldrin going to the moon. Mm-hmm. And, as you think about Columbus sailing off into the sunset, and he was pretty confident that he wasn't going to fall off the earth, but he wasn't confident about what he was going to find.
Right.
And so he went off thinking that the reward in terms of new experiences, perhaps finding gold, perhaps finding new sources of crops would be worth the risk of the adventure. Mm-hmm. And as we think about uncharted territories, every travel trip we do, there's a little bit of in that. We're looking for the unexpected, the unexpected smells, the unexpected food, the unexpected history. Mm-hmm. All of those things or make the risk worth it because of the reward.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I even booked this next little trip that we are going on, and we might be en route. I'm not quite sure when this comes out, But one of the trips that we are doing this summer is to Iceland.
Mhm.
And it wasn't really on a bucket list, but anybody I talked to is like, oh, that's so interesting, because of the geothermal, because of the Icelandic horses.
What about the Viking ships?
And the the Viking ships. Well, we get into the
You told me there's going to be Viking
mythological tales here now. But, and, just a lot of the, our visual, we think about, some of those things in Iceland and those areas too. So, but just interesting just to find out more about the history, about the land, and about the volcanic eruptions and why, don't always know why and when those happen, but the effect that they have too with the geothermal and the warm waters and all of that. So it's just kind of interesting, that whole history behind it. But that, again, for us, that's a little uncharted because we haven't been there, and we'll learn some new things and, going through. But every place you do, and there's a lot of places that you can go even locally and to find, we've talked about that as well. And because it will expand our own territories a bit. Sure.
It's another word for uncharted can be unimagined. And I know on some of our trips, it's stuff that once you experience it, you go, wow, that was pretty cool. Unimagined might be, over the top, but at least expanded my imagination of what different places are like, what their daily, life is like. All of that's really fun.
It's really interesting going to the places where there's more history. We're here in the United States. Our country is not nearly as old as some of those European countries. And you go there and you see some of that architecture and some of the background and the history that you can go through. It's fascinating. And you can read it in books, but when you actually see it, it's different when you're in the midst of it. You can read about all of it. Just had a friend get back from Portugal. You can read about all of the hills with the vineyards, but you're there and it's just, wow. You see, the majesty of that.
Yeah, and the expansiveness and how it just rolls and rolls and rolls. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Really.
I remember something else that was unimagined was we were in South Africa and saw 1,000-year-old cave paintings, that were basically done with stain that it was created from berries and brushed on, with, like horsehair. They'd made little brushes and even though the utensils were so rugged, still they were able to kind of tell the story of their day or their life, and it's still there on the cave. Just unimagined.
It was fascinating too that it would still be here today for us to see. Of course, now it's a protected. They don't let anybody touch it or anything. But it's it was fascinating, very clear, still very, very clear. And so you can kind of see that it's really interesting how those are just tucked in between some rocks and some areas. So yeah, definitely. So, and the majesty, when you're talking about South Africa, the majesty of the animals and how fierce those rhinos were. I never knew how angry they got and how fast they moved. So it just, when you are there and you're doing safari and you have to stay still for so long, and all of a sudden you see, that leopard walk right by you. It's just really interesting that way. Some people will never have that sort of experience, but you can always use your imagination with some of that as well. Because there's so many visual, and with the growth of, AI and all of the immersive technology, that will become more and more available for us. But it should kind of increase our areas of creativity. And I know Disney, for many of their movies, even The Lion King and all of those, they went to some of those places to be able to create the animals for them. They went to South Africa to visualize all of those different animals that are in there so they could take on those little personalities, and they had to study them. So there's so much that we can do, and we can learn from that area. So, and there's some other places with unimagined, or now I'm using unimagined instead of uncharted. But, I've read some books that are very uncharted, such as, going to the book, the Endurance book with Shackleton. That's kind of a well-known for many people, and how they survived, and the ice caps. And, it was amazing. They all survived, actually. It was kind of a miracle that way. Or The Impossible First with Colin Brady, how he was, he was going across Antarctica, and he barely made it, but he did. But that was totally uncharted. That is not what we are into. Actually, when I first booked going to Iceland, I wanted to go ice walking. Yes. And Greg kind of nixed that one.
Yeah, I have a hard enough time to keep my balance on stairs. And they were going to give us spiky shoes so we could walk on glaciers.
I thought it sounded fun.
It did sound fun. So you fall.
So we decided to go in the summer instead. But there's a lot of options, a lot of different options. We are riding the Icelandic horse. It's probably just like almost any other horse to ride, but you can just say you've done it.
Well, you can. But speaking of Uncharted, you can get to places that you it'd be hard to get to on foot.
Yes.
By taking a horse.
Yes. Yeah.
So we will be in our uncharted territories.
Yes, we will be. And they take you by Jeep, a lot of these areas too, because the roads aren't, great. So in many of those areas, because there's so much volcanic activity as well, probably the roads are,
And then there's that lava sleigh ride that we'll be doing.
Lava sleigh ride. Did you book that?
Because we'll be sitting, I could do that.
Yeah, it does. I did not book that. So just as a note, lava sleigh ride.
And I'm kidding.
Yeah, I hope so. We might have people believing you, It's just, please don't be that gullible. I've been married for you a long time. Don't be that gullible. So
she believed me for the first 38 years.
Yeah. It didn't take long to have to, anyway, something that I do for our trips that I wanted to kind of bring up here, because we've had, this will be linked on with some of the other articles that I've written on this, and you can get the videos, and, I usually put out videos of some of our trips. But something I started to do, and it was one of my cousins that gave me the idea, and she had, when we were first thinking of going to Italy, and she made up this little PowerPoint little guide, and that she put it on her iPad, and you can have it on your phone, you can have it on anything, because the PowerPoint transfers anywhere, and you can see everything. But she would put a day by day schedule on this, and then you can download pictures, you can put everything else on that, and your information. So even though you might have everything scheduled out on your phone or on some sort of agenda, you have also a visual guide. And I started doing this for some of our trips. It works seamlessly. What it does is it kind of raises the expectation. First of all, you're going, oh, we get to go there. Some of the pictures, there's a lot of pictures online, and you can just put those, but all the hotels, everything, and you have all the confirmation numbers, everything on, and you just go day by day by day. So I hope somebody's walking away with that sort of suggestion. It is a little work on the front end, but it really does.
It really does build the anticipation of the trip.
Yeah. Plus, it's really, really fun. Then you can just kind of tell all your friends where you're going, and you can screencast it on your big screen. So but it's really, for me, I like, some people like to go, that's just, unexpected. But I like to have a lot of the planning done. So I know we've got the train, if it's a longer train route, we've got that booked. We've got extra flights booked. We've got, all of those things in between that just makes it more relaxing, and, that you can fill in the gaps then. And which gaps to fill in. But that was a little clue. And I thought it is a little work on the front end, but now I do it for all our bigger trips as well. So it's very, very helpful. And even we're traveling with some friends coming up. And they're like so excited because it's helping them get excited and to fill in some of those gaps too, for all of us. So that's a little extra bonus that you would hear on this. And so if anybody really wants to see some of my presentations, I'll kind of forward those if you send me an email. So, but check out the articles that come with this. There's links in the show notes. Well, let's talk about personally. I want to apply this personally as well with Uncharted Territory, because a lot of people are at the mid-career, the halftime of life. This whole podcast is about helping you move ahead. And when there's unknowns, uncharted territory in your own personal life, it's kind of scary. It's kind of, what are you going to do? That's why I put together the Hero Mountain Summit. You can get there, heromountainsummit.com. But that's why I put that program together as kind of a mentorship, 5 months mentorship, taking you through step by step, tiny, tiny, tiny steps to get you to the next place, because you're still there's so many unknowns and you want to at least be moving ahead in your life. So let's talk about that a little bit with stages. And especially, we are both at the stage where we have a lot of choices now in what we're doing. I'm choosing to keep working. I love my work. I will never quit until I always say I'll never quit until the boys put me in a home, but we'll kind of keep going on that. But I just love doing what I'm doing. You're still in the market quite a bit and doing a lot of work in that area, but we can still make our schedules. So I'd love your comments a little bit about what that means to you.
What means?
The uncharted territory as far as personally, yes.
So for me, traveling, as I become more aware of the world around me, I feel like I'm more interesting. I've got new stories to tell, and not only do I have new stories, I have new perspectives. When you actually ride a bike through a vast vineyard, or you horseback ride over glaciers, just seeing the way other people live, run their lives, what the daily pattern is. All of those things, they make you more interesting. And another thing it does is sometimes it alters your own lifestyle. Like you may see something in Italy and you go, that's a great idea. Like having morning cappuccinos is a takeaway from Italy.
Yes.
And, it's just little stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you read a lot. Both of us read a lot. But when we're talking about uncharted territory, as far as taking risks or in personally, to be able to grow and learn some of these areas that we read about, or not just in travel, but in even our personal and professional lives, is a little bit of that uncharted territory. And we're finding out about areas on the periphery a little bit that are just not right into our lane. And all of a sudden it opens our minds, just like the travel does, of just unimagined. We weren't imagining, but now we can. Mm-hmm. We can further imagine these areas. So, and I think reading does that a lot. You're very well read. You retain so well. It just... I wish I retained like you retain. You can remember what you read in whatever book. And I'm thinking, let me go find that book. Where is it? I know I read that, but I can't remember what you remember. So there's a certain amount of that with reading. So.
Yeah. And we often read about whatever place or country we're going to go ahead of time. So we've got a couple of books on Iceland that we're working our way through right now. And lots of times in those readings, some event will come up, or some museum will be talked about, and you dig a little bit deeper into those and you learn more. So there's fun rabbit trails just in the reading.
Right. And I had no idea they have unique hot dogs. So that was Something I found when they were advertising food tours. You're going to get a lot of things online when you decide to travel. A lot of,
I remember when we traveled to Germany, two of the odd things was how many different brats and cheeses they had.
And they were good.
Every province had like their own signature that they were so proud of and would hardly even dare taste somebody else's cheese or brat. Yeah. And, it just something I would have never guessed about Germany.
And beers, a lot of different beers, because that was one of our little side tours that we had done too. And just kind of interesting, just anywhere around the world, people are people, and trying to eke out a living and
make life interesting.
And make life interesting. And it does make it interesting. So, and we think about now, if we're going to bring anything home, where are you going to put it? Or who are you going to give it away to? So that's basically it. So don't want to store any more things. Well, what are anything else that we want to leave people with? Again, on this article, I will leave you with some links, and it'll be linked with one of the other articles with the podcast but I would encourage everyone to be reading and to look at resources. Don't just, we went through a lot of months, years of being isolated, and don't stay. COVID? Yeah. Oh. Don't stay isolated. Don't stay stuck in that one place. Don't stay stuck in one place in your life. There are many areas, interesting areas, as we explore. And hopefully this has inspired you a little bit. You may not have Iceland on your bucket trip. I never had that on my bucket trip, by the way, until I heard somebody talk about it. And it was at a meeting, and I thought, who goes to Iceland? Whoever goes to. Then there was an Iceland trail on some of these stationary bikes that has all the trails on them, and that you're following along when you're on the bikes. And it was like, wow, that was interesting. And then I started finding out more about the history of the country. So,
speaking of Uncharted Territory, so Deb was planning our tour and had 85% of everything lined up.
Yeah,
and then we realized that we're going to be there for the summer solstice, so June 21st, and so if you're out on the water at midnight, you get to see the midnight sun. And, it's just an unexpected, that's one of those unexpected things that you would have never anticipated unless you're already there.
Right.
And
right.
So anyway, that'll be fun.
Yeah, that will be fun. And you played ball in Alaska for 3 months. So you got to see a lot of that. I didn't. I traveled a lot, but I had never been to Alaska until we went together. Right. So, but there's a lot. And now, of course, we've had some of those, the lights showing up because of the solar changes that have happened. So people kind of a lot of over the United States got to see them. Yeah. But we will be up in the area that it's really known for too. So yeah. So anything else that you want to kind of leave with?
Nope, that's it.
This was just a fun episode to do, and to encourage everyone to get out of your comfort zones a little bit, with a little bit of that uncharted territory, unexpected things that will end up happening that are maybe unfamiliar to you, and not to be afraid of taking risks, not only in travel. You may not be able to do a whole lot of travel, but some of you can. And if you can, don't put it off, please. We've known too many who put it off and have a lot of life changes with health, and then they can't. So don't put off these years. That's very, very, especially mid-career, half-time of life, don't put them off. And we've both done a lot of travel, but we want to travel a little bit more together, and to some of the places that we've not been, like Iceland. Thank you so much. So, some of those places to go now together are just such a treat. And I'm learning more. I'm learning more than when I was touring. I was on a tour. I was working. So, and you were doing the same thing. And a lot lot of those places. So, but also in our lives with the Uncharted Territory. Check out heromountainsummit.com. It's a 5-month step-by-step, 60 sessions short, taking you through maybe some uncharted territory of your life as a mentorship, pretty much, mentorship guide of an online mentorship. I only open that up for individuals twice a year. And because I am available during some of that time as well, or doing some extra little videos and extra little touches in there. So it's very, very important to not miss those times to sign up. And that's only, I think that starts August 5th. I think this is coming out before that. So to check that out. And of course, get on our newsletter, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. You get all of our updates. And don't miss any of our free downloads too. So thank you for being with me, everyone, and for Greg to be with me. It's always such a pleasure to be together. We're on together once a month. We have a lot of guests as well. And I speak a couple times a month as well. So just make sure you check out all of those interviews. Really some interesting ones this year. I put in some more interesting interviews. Had a lot of people that want to be on podcasts. So, but I've really chosen some great ones. So hopefully you will be able to click in on those, and we'll look forward to being with you again next time. So bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.